Thanks for staying with us. Over the weekend, the City of Cape Town's law enforcement members removed more than 2,000 tyres placed around Cape Town, allegedly ahead of the EFF's planned countrywide shutdown on Monday. Now, Safety and Security MACO member JP Smith says neighbourhood watchers and private security companies have joined the hunt for tyres. JP Smith joins us now to take this conversation further. Very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time. Interesting revelation discovered. Even in the midst of the EFF being interdicted from threatening, harming people and businesses during the shutdown in the Western Cape, evidence of potential harm has been found.
So I think we're now seeing 3 court interdicts from the South African Property Owners Association, SAPOA, 4 in fact, 1 from the City of Cape Town, another from the Western Cape Government, and a 4th from the Democratic Alliance. So there are multiple interdicts now applying to all of South Africa. And if any person that now gets involved in inciting violence, intimidation, threats, inciting looting, much of which Julius Malema has now done on live television and public meetings where he's been recorded, any of that now constitutes not just an offence in terms of any particular damage that may come, which may result in a civil claim, similar to the civil claim currently unfolding in Brackenfell, where the EFF last did significant damages during a protest that went rogue. But they will also be in contempt of court, which means we will immediately arrest them. And we have very substantial logistical arrangements for tomorrow with rapid response teams spread across the city, our tactical response units that are able to deal with public violence or public disorder incidents. We've brought on board drones, helicopters, our eye in the sky, and we have extensive operational arrangements in place with private security, neighbourhood watchers, and we have resources in place to deal with any blockades or obstructions or motor vehicles left or any other item dumped or placed in any public road. We've got response plans and resources in place looking at schools, shopping malls, all the major roads around the city, public transport interchanges, and as much crime information as we've been able to muster.
EFF leader Julius Malema, throughout the course of the week, accused the DA of planting agents in the party's national shutdown. What is your response to this? I mean, given the alleged tyres that you found planted strategically around the city, what would your response be, to what Malema has said?
I don't think we have any people who are brave enough to sit through a Malema speech to be an agent. It is too diabolically self-destructive to have to sit through one of his speeches. But the EFF is quite self-exposing. Even in the most recent speeches he has made, which have been filmed and put on social media, he has and his party have self-exposed and identified their plans and intentions around tyre stockpiling, to the extent that one must assume that it is a purposeful red herring, it's a purposeful misdirection, and that the plan is in fact quite different. It's entirely possible that nothing materializes tomorrow and that the EFF is all bluster. But that said, one must make arrangements because you can't take the risk. And what I do want to say is many of the things that the EFF is complaining about are crises which they have very significantly contributed to over the last few years. The situation with employment and disinvestment in South Africa is in no small measure due to their destructive behavior, the disinvestment and the panic that they have sown, the policies that they have advocated for. So the EFF is the architect of much of what they now seek to protest against. And the fact is, even in as much as they're protesting about the state of policing and crime, the resources that they are drawing away from core functions tomorrow will give criminals a field day in communities that are already vulnerable. This is an irresponsible action on so many levels, never mind that it grossly violates the right of every South African in terms of the freedom of association and assembly. and the freedom to go about their business and conduct business, because we can ill afford more shutdowns and more job losses.
The EFF has said that, as far as they're concerned, the national shutdown will be peaceful, and they are not intending on having people loot. In the event that community members do engage in acts of criminality, what are some of the implications, especially looking at the interdicts that you made mention of?
So they will be charged for potentially, amongst others, intimidation, public violence, the malicious damage to property, potentially the Criminal Matters Amendment Act if they destroy any state infrastructure or critical infrastructure. It may result in civil claims against them, such as in Brackenfell, and it will certainly result in an arrest and being charged for contempt of court. That's not just for any actual violence, but any attempt to incite violence, any attempt to intimidate or coerce any persons from not boarding public transport, interfering with public transport, interfering with anybody attempting to go to work, or in any other manner. The interdicts are extremely broad, and we will be enforcing them with diligence and enthusiasm.
And in terms of residents getting involved to ensure that if tyres are spotted, how is that looking with the assistance ahead of the shutdown? And also, where are these tyres placed in terms of the thinking behind it? Because as far as we know, there hasn't been one single point of like a start point ahead of the shutdown. Members have been told to gather in groups from wherever they are. So
the tyres have been distributed in little stockpiles everywhere. Some of those were presumably or possibly just there before its sites of dumping. At least one or two of the pics I have seen that have been sent to me that I have forwarded for clearing looks like dumping that's been there for a while. Others have recently arrived in that members of the public have identified them as such, saying that this was not here a few days ago. This has been dropped recently. So we've cleared just over 5,000 tyres and continue to do so. We're also clearing other debris and stuff that can potentially be used as ammunition for stone throwing or blockades. And equally, we've removed all the illegal EFF posters from the polls. They have a very large number of posters that they erected, some 300 to 400, around the city illegally without permission, contrary to the city signage bylaw, and we've removed those, and they'll be billed 514 Rand per poster, and potentially prosecuted in terms of the outdoor signage bylaw of the city. So the public have been extremely forthcoming. It's indicative of the contempt for this kind of coercive action. And we've got an extremely good relationship with around 50,000 neighbourhood watch members in the city, as we saw the very robust actions during the national looting and public disorder incidents in KZN Gauteng, when that was attempted here. Communities formed neighbourhood watchers formed physical barricades in front of shopping malls and otherwise to protect them in Khayelitsha, where I stood with them through parts of the night. In Langa and elsewhere, and I've seen some of that level of organization. The Khayelitsha CPF has issued a document or a graphic indicating the kind of things they want reported to the police. So I'm seeing significant levels of cooperation, and equally so from private security. So we're fairly well prepared for tomorrow.
Very well. JP Smith, the Cape Town Safety and Security MMC, thanks for talking to us.